Welcome back, everybody. This is Talking Blue, episode 12. Talking Blue is the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I'm your host, Nick, and today, this is our second series preview, where today we're going to talk about the Dodgers and the Cubs, who will play on Tuesday in Chicago, in Wrigley. We're going to just talk about the two games. It's only a two-game series. A little bit weird because the Dodgers have already played the Cubs multiple times. Obviously, they played them twice in Tokyo, 3 times in LA. Now they will play them 2 more times in Chicago, and then that'll be the last time we see the Cubs. So a little sick of the Cubs so far, but that's okay. Before we get into it, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. You can get it on YouTube if you prefer to watch. Follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod, TikTok, like I said, YouTube, Instagram, X. You can get all the videos that we've been dropping on the YouTube Shorts and TikTok as well, Instagram Reels. You can talk to us on competitive-week 8715 on Reddit. Been talking with a lot of fans on there. And before we get into the video, I like doing the last preview series. I'm not sure if I will always be able to do these. I don't know if I will always make a preview series for every series coming up. But a lot of people in the comments on Reddit told me they liked the series or liked the episode. And some people asked me when I was going to do the next. It's going to be a very quick episode. Before we get into it, let's get into the Cubs offense first. The Cubs have a pretty good lineup that walks a lot, so not like the Rangers offense that didn't walk a lot. They lead all of Major League Baseball in walks, and they're 5th in on-base percentage. They are 3rd in home runs, 5th in doubles, and they're 1st in runs. And they have a really interesting approach at the plate. They have the 7th best chase percentage, meaning they don't chase out of the zone at the 7th best rate, so they're a pretty disciplined team. But they have the 8th highest first pitch swing percentage. Usually that doesn't go hand in hand. Usually teams that don't chase, like the Dodgers, are not very aggressive. And then teams like the Rangers, who are aggressive, swing at the first pitch. So the Cubs are a team that does not chase, but they swing at the first pitch. And then they have the 3rd best whiff percentage. So they don't swing and miss, and they have the 2nd lowest ground ball percentage, so they don't hit the ball on the ground very often, which is interesting considering that they faced Dustin May in this series. So, pretty unique lineup. They have slugged a lot early in the year, walk a lot. They don't chase, swing at the first pitch a lot, and they also don't swing and miss. So they hit righties at a 252 average, which is 7th in all of baseball, and then they hit lefties at a 280 average, which is 3rd. So they have a really good offense to start the year. One of the better offenses in baseball to start the year. We'll see if that continues for the Cubs. I didn't think their offense would be this great this year, but they've been really good. A couple of guys have stepped up. Then their pitching staff is not as good as their offense. They have a 4.16 team ERA, which is 19th in all of baseball. They allow the 5th most walks, and they have the 2nd highest chase percentage. So they walk batters and they get a lot of chase, so a lot of swing and miss. Guys go out of the zone against their pitching staff. But they have the 5th worst whiff percentage, so that's kind of interesting. That when they do get swing and miss, it's a lot of chase, but they don't get a lot of swing and miss. They're 5th worst in baseball instead of chase. So a lot of guys put the ball in play. And in this series, it's going to be Dustin May versus Shota Imanaga in Game 1. And then the Dodgers don't have a starter announced for Game 2. It might be Bobby Miller again, but we don't really know yet. Maybe Wrigley. I thought it would be Landon Knack, but I think he just pitched in OKC, so I don't think it'll be Knack. So we're not going to talk about the Dodgers pitcher for that game because we don't know yet, but Matthew Boyd is going to be pitching for the Cubs. So 2 lefties going against the Dodgers. So far early in the year, the Dodgers have struggled against left-handed pitching. I don't think that will continue because they've always been a team that hits left-handed pitching well, especially last year, and they have a lot of guys who hit lefties really well. And both of these guys have history against the Dodgers. The Dodgers have faced both of these pitchers this year. So that's why it's going to be a quick podcast, because a lot of this is already known. But we'll talk about Game 1 with Dustin May and Shota Imanaga, and I will be giving home run predictions like I did in the last preview series. So we talked about how the Cubs offense, they do walk a lot, but they have some parts of their game where they're aggressive, swinging at the first pitch. And that is going to be an interesting matchup for Dustin May. So Dustin May is a pretty neutral pitcher. Left-handers hit 108 versus Dustin May. Right-handers hit 136. So very neutral numbers against Dustin May. And the Cubs have a lot of guys who hit sinkers well. So this might not be the best matchup for Dustin May. So Kyle Tucker, who's their best player, he hits 444 against sinkers. Ian Happ is another good player. He struggled this year, but he is hitting 400 against sinkers. Carson Kelly, who is one of their breakout players this year, who was kind of signed to be a backup catcher, but right now is starting, he hits 333 against sinkers. Seiya Suzuki, the DH, 379 versus sinkers. Now, Dansby Swanson does struggle. He's got a 0 batting average against sinkers, but Nico Horner, another high contact bat, 310 versus sinkers. John Birdie, 250. Pete Crow Armstrong has an expected batting average of 314 versus sinkers. So the Cubs have a lot of guys who hit the sinker well, which is a key pitch for Dustin May, of course. Now, we've talked about in previous podcasts how Dustin May was beginning to throw his sweeper more often than any other pitch. He started off the first few starts like that. Last start against the Rockies was the first time he went back to more sinkers than he did sweepers. I think that will flip again in this game because the Cubs are a good sinker hitter team. Now, they don't hit four-seam fastballs as well, and we saw Dustin May use the four-seamer a lot against the Rockies in his last start. So Kyle Tucker, 242 against four-seamers, but it's expected 311, so he's been a little unlucky. Ian Happ, 265 versus four-seamers. Seiya Suzuki hits 192 versus four-seamers. Dansby Swanson, 184. PCA who is Pete Crow Armstrong, who kind of crushed the Dodgers a little while ago. He hits 207 against four-seamers, and then Michael Busch, 229. Look for Dustin May to actually use his four-seamer more in this start, like he did against the Rockies, because the Cubs seem to be a team that hits sinkers well, but not as well against four-seam fastballs. And then, of course, the slider, the sweeper that Dustin May throws. Now, Kyle Tucker hits that pitch well. He has a 167 batting average against sliders, but expected 304, so he's been unlucky. Ian Happ hits 167 against sliders, so a little bit of struggle. Carson Kelly, 100 versus sliders. Seiya Suzuki, 100 versus sliders. Dansby Swanson hits 188 versus sliders. Nico Horner's a pretty good slider hitter. PCA, his expected batting average versus sliders is 245. And then Michael Busch, who has crushed the Dodgers throughout his young career so far, he hits 750 versus sliders and an expected batting average of 641. So he's a good breaking ball hitter. So looking at all those numbers, it looks like the Chicago Cubs are a good sinker hitting team, which is not the best matchup for Dustin May, but they have a lot of guys who don't hit sweepers and sliders good, or four-seam fastballs. Like I said, Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson. Those guys struggle against some of those pitches. So look for Dustin May to mix up the pitch mix in this outing. Maybe less sinkers. He won't, of course, go away from it because that's always been his most often used pitch throughout his career. He has switched it up this year where he's using the sweeper more often. I think that will continue in this game. A lot of sweepers, more four-seamers. The Cubs do have a fair amount of left-handed hitters in their lineup. So it's going to be a tough outing for Dustin May because the Cubs do not hit the ball on the ground very often. He relies on ground balls. They don't swing and miss too often, too. Now, Dustin May doesn't get a lot of swing and miss. He did in his last start, and it's gotten better. The Cubs do not swing and miss too much. So we will see what gives in this matchup. Will he dominate the Cubs with some strikeouts? Will he dominate them with some low contact low exit velocity contact ground balls. They're not a team that hits the ball on the ground very often. Will the Cubs hit him well? They are also, like I said, a team that walks a lot. He has gotten better with his command. It was really well against the Rockies. A couple other starts, he's had some 3-4 walk outings, but Dustin May's command is pretty good. So what Dustin May needs to do in this game is attack the strike zone, and he has to have good command on the sweeper, which he normally does. And like we've talked about, it's one of the best sweepers in the game, if not the best. He's got to go to the sweeper a lot, and he's got to have good command with the four-seamer up in the zone, because the Cubs don't hit four-seamers as well as they do sinkers. So the four-seamer and the sweeper are the pitch to look out for with Dustin May. Now we'll talk about quickly Shota Imanaga. If you don't know much about Shota Imanaga, left-hander for the Cubs, he's a left-hander that does not rely on a lot of swing and miss. One of those guys with the invisible fastball. He only throws, let me give his pitch usage. He goes 53% four-seamer, 34% splitter, 9% sweeper. Those are pretty much the three pitches he's going to throw. And the four-seam fastball has a 209 batting average against, but 255 expected batting average. So not that great either way for hitters, but a little bit of luck involved. The splitter is probably his best pitch, 159 batting average against, and then the sweeper is 167. So there's been a little bit of luck involved with his fastball, so the Dodgers are going to have to look to hit that pitch, which he throw it a lot up in the zone. Now, he doesn't get a lot of swing and miss, and he's about league average when it comes to his walks. He's in the 50th percentile in walk percentage. So if he is a little bit of erratic early on or not as dialed in, the Dodgers are going to look to hit that fastball. Now, his splitter has good numbers, so that's going to be tough on some of the right-handers. And his sweeper, he throws to left-handers, is a tough pitch on them. So against Shota Imanaga, I'm picking two hitters to go deep that are both right-handers, Mookie Betts and Teoscar Hernandez, who are two guys that I said at the end of my last podcast that I want to see their at-bats get better. It helps that they see two lefties in the series because they hit better against lefties. They both have struggled as of late, but they're both pretty good fastball hitters, and I think that Mookie's going to get a fastball out over the plate, and he's going to yank it out to left field into the bleachers at Wrigley. And then I think Teoscar will do the same thing. But Teoscar also does hit splitters and changeups pretty good. Mookie and Teoscar are going to be my two home run picks in this game. Going to be a little bit of a tough matchup for the Dodgers because Imanaga is a good pitcher, but the Dodgers have seen him a decent amount. Tommy Edman has 2 home runs off him, by the way, and Muncy also has a home run. So early in his young career, he's only pitched, this is his second year. The Dodgers have faced him a fair amount, so they have some familiarity with Imanaga, and they should fare decently well against him. That's going to pretty much wrap up Game 1. It'll be a pretty tough challenge for Dustin May considering how he matches up against the Cubs, but if he switches up his pitch mix and he's got the sweeper like he has early on in this year, he should be able to give a strong outing for the Dodgers. And then we'll go to the Game 2 where the Dodgers don't have a starter announced. Matthew Boyd will be pitching, so we'll talk a lot about the Dodgers matching up against Boyd. So Matthew Boyd, early on in this year, he's looked really good for the Cubs. He's got an ERA of 2.01, a little bit of a bounce back. He had a couple of years where he struggled with the Tigers, went to the Guardians last year, fixed them up. So he goes four-seam, 43%, slider, 22%, changeup, 22%, and then he also throws a curveball and a sinker. He is fairly neutral in terms of all his pitches being good. There's not really one pitch that jumps out. His four-seam fastball gets hit 233, expected 243. The slider's 250, expected 258. Changeup 250, expected 235. His curveball is 100, expected 109. Sinker 333, expected 150. So there's not really any pitches like I talked about with Jacob deGrom in the first game. Had a 300 batting average against the four-seamer, but there was luck involved. Tyler Mahle had good numbers on the slider, but there was luck involved, and it had an higher expected batting average. I know it's all a little bit confusing, but Boyd is pretty neutral that there isn't a pitch that jumps out that the Dodgers should be looking for to hammer. Now, he also does not get a bunch of whiffs. His four-seamer has a 20% whiff rate. Now, his slider is his best pitch, and his changeup is a really good pitch. Those pitches both get some good swing and misses. So, in this game, my 2 home run picks, I'm going to pick Andy Pages, who has struggled early in the year, and Tommy Edman, of course. I was trying to not pick Tommy Edman because I picked him in the last video. I was trying to switch things up, but he already has a home run against Boyd this year. He hits really good from the right side against lefties, of course, and he has good numbers against changeups and sliders, which Boyd throws. So I said, why not? Let's pick Tommy Edman again. And then Andy Pages does not hit well against four-seam fastballs, but he has pretty good numbers against sliders. Andy Pages hits .333 on the year versus sliders. He's always hit better against lefties, so I'm thinking that Boyd tries to get a slider down in the zone, maybe back foot, leaves it up, and Pages hammers it out to left field. Tommy Edman, he homered earlier in the year off of Boyd. It was a changeup, but like I said, he has fairly good numbers against all pitches, so I think he is going to hit a home run as well. So the 2 home run picks in this series, the first game I got Mookie and Teoscar, then in game 2, Pages and Edman. I'm trying to make it harder because I'm trying to predict the home run in each game specifically. I'm not just saying I'm picking all 4 of these guys to homer at any point in the series. I'm specifically trying to predict Mookie and Teoscar off of Imanaga and then in game 1, and then Pages and Edman against Boyd in game 2. So making it a little difficult, but I was able to get 2 right in game 1. We'll see if I can get any right. I will add a bonus. Will Smith, I wanted to pick in this video. I didn't pick him just because it's a little hard with catchers. I don't want to pick him. I'm trying to avoid what happened in the first video where I picked Shohei and then he wasn't in the game. I don't want to pick Will Smith in one of the games and then he ends up not playing. Now, it's only 2 games and they have a day off on Thursday. So there is a good chance Will Smith plays both games. But the Dodgers like to always rest him, so they could have Austin Barnes catch one of the games. So I'm going to just throw Will Smith in as a bonus to go deep in this series. I don't know which game, so I know that's kind of not fair, but anyway, I'm going to pick it anyways. I don't care. Maybe he'll go deep. So those are my 4 home run picks. The Dodgers, this is going to be a good series, good matchup. The Cubs have had a good offense so far to start the year, but their pitching staff is not as great, and I think the Dodgers can put up some runs against the Cubs, and I'm looking for some guys to break out like Mookie, like Teoscar. I would like to see Conforto have better at-bats as well as Muncy, but they might be platooned in this series, so that's why I didn't mention them too often. And then, of course, the other guys like Shohei and Freddie Edman have continued to rake. So we'll see if I can get those home run picks right. We'll see how Dustin May's pitch mix aligns in this first game, and then we'll see how the Dodgers approach against Boyd. We'll also see who pitches for the Dodgers. We don't know yet. So that's going to wrap up this pod. I know it's very short. Those are my predictions. That's my info on the Cubs, a little bit of a breakdown. I like giving out this information so you're nice and prepared when you sit down to watch the Cubs this week against the Dodgers. Like I said, I'll close out. Good offense. They walk a lot. They swing at the first pitch a lot, but they do walk a lot. They don't swing and miss too much. Pitching staff is not as good, but they do get some chase and they get some strikeouts as well. So, and the Cubs do have a pretty good bullpen, I should add. Pretty good bullpen. So, and they also have very good defense, of course, up the middle. Everybody knows they have Horner, Swanson, PCA. Those are all good. So the Cubs are really hot. They played really well to start the series. They beat the Dodgers a couple weekends ago, but the Dodgers in the last few years have played really well against the Cubs. And because they have so many left-handed starters, and typically the Dodgers hit lefties well, they haven't so far this year, but I still think that's going to change. So, thank you for listening to this podcast. I know it was very quickly. That's going to wrap up this series preview. You can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, you can get it on Spotify. You can watch it on YouTube. We're going to have more and more shorts coming out, more TikTok reels, Instagram reels, all those short videos. Talk to us on Reddit, competitive-week 8715. I'm going to be posting more info on there. We will see you guys after the Dodgers-Cubs series. It's going to be a quick series, so we'll see you right when that ends. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, guys.